Hello. All right. So if you know from the title of the video, hey, it's me G again. But we're gonna just talk specifically about what exactly is the Omegaverse. And let me tell you, and why I'm making this video is I hope that maybe someone will be able to watch this video before experiencing the Omegaverse because it is actually crazy. What like when you first read it. Nowadays, it's just a run of the mill. It's still kind of weird and kind of crazy. It's wacky, but you're much more used to it. I didn't have the I didn't have the luck of actually knowing what Omegaverse was from before. I just literally took a random title of like a manga, I believe, and it was an Omegaverse. So what exactly is the Omegaverse and what exactly does it entail? The Omegaverse basically is as it suggests, it's very similar to like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? It's basically a universe where all humans have these things known as subgenders, all right? And basically, so as we know, you have the two genders, male and female, right? But in the Omegaverse, they have something known as subgenders, which are basically when you're a male or a female, you can either be categorized into an alpha, a beta, right? And then of course the lowly omegas, right? So you have three possible subgenders that can occur if you're part of the Omegaverse. And the reason why it's called Omegaverse is partially reason is because these three things here, but specifically it's Omega, which I think that's where it gets its name from. So, what exactly do these subgenders entail? So, in this universe, both males and females can be alpha, beta, or omega. It doesn't matter, right? Um, However, in this universe, if you're an omega male, right? If you're a male in the Omegaverse, you can get pregnant. So both males and females can get pregnant, but only if you're an omega. So you can get pregnant, right? Right. So just that's like a little starter, so you'll kind of understand where we're getting at here. All right. But that's besides the point. That's like a first kind of like just to kind of get you kind of in there. So basically, what the Omegaverse entails is that in this universe, there's these subgenders that I've already stated before: alpha, beta, omega. Now, betas, are normal humans, right? They're normal, right? They're basically just us, just us in this universe where the males can't get pregnant, the females are the ones that get pregnant. Beta being bada boom, right? The in in the universe, omegas are um basically how do I explain this in a more they're seen as like certainly in many of those stories, the underlining theme is that omegas are just there to birth children and stuff, and it's pretty fucked up. But that's what I'm by. This is a weird and wacky world. And then there's alphas who are basically meant to basically dominate the omegas, right? That's the point of this, right? The betas are normal; they're just like us. The alpha and omegas are different. Now, in this universe, and I just want people to understand this. Omegas have these things known as heat cycles, right? They're called heat cycles, and basically, when the omegas turn a certain age, and you understand why the alphas are always on top of the omegas. There's these heat cycles, and basically, the omegas will basically give off these things known as pheromones that are meant to attract the alphas to them, and vice versa, right? The uh, the alphas will also have pheromones as well. And these pheromones you can think of as very similar to, like, if you know about ants, they give off pheromones. Let's hope I spell this right. Pheromones that their fellow colony members can smell right? And some of it can be extremely attractive for certain insects when they have pheromones. The idea is similar in for both alphas and omegas, right? Of course, the betas do not have this pheromone, so they are not usually they don't really are not really affected by the pheromones. They may smell it, but it's not in the same way that omegas and alphas are, right? So both of them give off pheromones towards each other, right? And because the goal of the omega is that they are to become the mate god to an alpha usually, where in order to basically become a mate, the alpha has to bite like bite the omega's like neck, and they become the mate to the alpha. And what these pheromones are is basically extremely irresistible honey traps. And it basically causes, if an omega's in heat, which is basically a heat cycle where they give off huge amounts of pheromones to alphas to try to attract an alpha. You can imagine it like if anyone here has ever seen that very famous plant that basically every like 7 years or something like that, it blooms and it has this huge rotting meat smell that's meant to attract flies. It's very similar to that. And what happens is when an omega is in a heat, they will basically try to attract alphas. And the alpha usually does not have a lot of control over their actions, and they want to therefore then um how do I say this? They want to mate with the omega, let's just say, and try to mark them as their own by biting them. And once you bite into the omega, they are now yours, and their heat cycles usually will not affect anyone else other than that one omega alpha that they have now mated with after being bitten. Now, that sounds weird. Yes, it is. And the reason why I'm just writing stuff like this is because all the pictures, you know, I said this is a hobby and this is a hobby, but for YouTubing, but I don't want my channel to be like taken down as of yet. Okay, let's just say there's some raunchy shit out there, and all of the stuff that I can show you and kind of explain is pretty raunchy, and I don't think it's good for YouTube. So instead, I'll just explain it, and especially some of the scenes. I don't think that should be. I'm not going to show it on YouTube. So the Omega has that, and the alphas also have pheromones that are extremely attractive to omegas as well. And that could depend really on the author, and this is why it's the Omegaverse, where it's just a share. It's not. It's a universe that basically runs on these rules, but every author can have their own interpretation, slight interpretation of it, but the rules stay the same, right? In terms of heat cycles, pheromones, alphas having pheromones, betas usually being normal. They don't really do anything. And the betas are usually without any heat cycles, right? They're just normal human beings, basically, similar to us. Now, in this world, omegas also have this ability, and they can take pills depending on the world. I know there's certain worlds they don't have that, but usually they have pills that can basically allow them, because once they reach like a certain age where they're starting to mature, they'll start having heat cycles, which is very bad because it means they're trying to get them to mate, and they have pills to suppress it. Because when the pheromones come out, like I've said before, it's impossible it's almost impossible for the alphas not to want to mate with them, right? And that's like a big thing with this, which is why there is a lot of discrimination against the omegas usually in these universes. So another theme to many Omegaverse stuff is I'm gonna be honest with you, is discrimination, and I don't know how to say. Do you see how I'm saying a lot? I don't know how to. Let's just say sex of the not so consensual side, because and that's why I want people. That's why I'm warning people about this, right? Because it is a way to write in, let's just say, much more raunchier stuff, more niche stuff that goes into that. This is why I was not prepared for what I was going to see. But there's a lot of discrimination where there's a lot of blame on the omegas for basically stealing away the alphas with their with their pheromones. And how dare these omegas and alphas, how dare these omegas take away the alphas like that? They're disgusting. You're only here to make children, right? That's like a lot of the stories are like that. And they face a lot of discrimination. They're seen as like lowest of the low. They're like low class people, right? And both alphas and betas can and will bully them, attack them, and the RAPE word, okay? And that's a lot of stuff that could happen in the Omegaverse. I that's why I'm warning people right now. Not all of Omegaverse stuff is like that, but a lot of it is. And this is why I'm making this video. I'm hoping I can try to give you an actual kind of guide a little bit to Omegaverse, what you're getting into. Because I did not know what I was getting into, and I just was quite shocking. So there's also this other idea between these two, right? Between the omegas and the alphas, known as a soulmate, right? And basically a soulmate, and not all stories have this, but this is something that you should also know within this universe, especially if they talk about it, because sometimes they won't actually even explain what the hell is going on. They'll just say, go on with it, go for it, baby. And they won't have any explanation, and you'll just get pushed into the world of Omegaverse. But basically, a soulmate is basically an alpha and an omega that are destined to be together. So even if they're in the vicinity of each other, sometimes not even when the omega's even in a heat cycle yet, the omega may have a pheromone that is extremely attractive to that specific alpha, right? Even when they're not in a heat cycle, which then suggests that the alpha and the omega are soulmates, they are meant to be together, they're meant to be mates, and they're meant to have children, blah blah blah. I just stuff like that, right? And of course, when the alpha becomes with the omega, the alpha becomes extremely protective, let's just say, possessive, if you want to put it out another word, usually. And just so people here understand, an alpha is gonna be the seme, right? It's the seme usually. I don't think I've ever seen an omega be in anything but an uke, and an omega is an uke. So just so you understand that, because that's just how it is usually. And yeah, this is yeah, so that's kind of how that works as well. If you're wondering how the top bottom stuff works, so there's soulmates, there's pills, there's pheromones, heat cycles. Male can get pregnant, pheromones and seme, and you might think, wow, the Omegaverse could be with males and females. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure this was made so that it was meant for like yaoi specifically, because the males can get pregnant. I think this is probably created for the yaoi community, and it's extremely. It's something that I thought people should know. It's the wacky world of fucking Omegaverse. There is, and I'm thinking right now is if there's. I can't think of any titles on the top of my head that I would recommend. I feel like this is a place where once you've read enough regular yaoi, wow, putting that really lightly. I mean, I don't think fucking cam guys and fucking shrinking boys are fucking normal, but once you kind of get out of the normal stuff, you get into this. And a lot of these stories, I'm warning people, is that there is a lot of RAPE in it. And I think it's something that people should understand when they're getting into it. Now, some of the stuff is nice, some of it is not so nice, and it's crazy. But the Omegaverse, as people should know, also can actually go beyond other than the Omegaverse tag. It can go into anything, right? You can have Lord have mercy. They can be incest. There can be brother complexes. There can be furry stuff. Like the Omegaverse, does not just mean it's gonna be regular humans. It's only a universe basically that is set in this idea of there's omegas and there's alphas and there's these rules that these people have to follow within the universe. But every other genre can be put into this world, right? So it just depends on what the author wants to write in, and there's quite a lot of stuff there, right? Because depending on what you can find some ones that are not as bad, and where there's not as much, there's no real hatred towards omegas. That's very rare though. Usually its Omegas are treated like trash, and you have to be ready for that as well. I think, especially some of the scenes are not are not for the faint of heart. Let's just say, and I think that people should understand that when they're coming into this universe, just as anyone should be ready when they're coming into Yaoi, as I've made in my other Yaoi video. But this is still Omegaverse, and I think people should understand that. So, good luck. If anyone has questions about it, I don't know if anyone's ever going to watch this video, but if anyone does and they actually have questions about the Omegaverse or wants me to try to maybe give you one I would maybe recommend, uh, like I can try my best and I'd have to go through the stuff I have read and try to find one that I think would work. But it's kind of hard, and I don't think that all of it's bad. I think some of it's actually I remember I liked some of the stuff in it. I don't know if I want to say that. Some of the stuff is okay, and it's like okay, it's like it's not too bad, but a lot of it's just a lot of trash. Because again, the reason why you would have an Omegaverse and Omegas usually is because the author wants to write something that is a lot more raunchier, and it's much more debaucherous, and it's not, and they might even want to write something that is about discrimination sometimes, right? Which I don't think that's usually the plot of Yaoi, but that might occur. So I just want people to understand that when they're coming into basically the Omegaverse. So thanks again for watching. Good luck. If you have any questions about this play, about any of my guides or anything I've talked about, feel free to comment if anyone has any comments at all. But yeah, good luck.